Welcome back, audience. Once again, I know that you noticed that these are my headphones. These are not, I didn't have my ears pierced to look pretty. These are my headphones, I suppose. It does look like earrings, so it'll be alright. As always, hope you're doing good and cheers. My traditional green tea. In this video, I want to talk about sometimes we use the words, but oh my god, some words mean the same thing, but they appear to be so different that we could never make a link. And for example, I'm talking about death and love. Did you know that it's exactly the same thing? I'm not talking about the physical uh, death, um, but I'm talking about psychological, I suppose, death. And why death is love, and then conversely, why light is life. And you cannot have light without death. It's just not gonna happen. Light happens after love happens, and love doesn't happen until the death happens. This is why some people, when they are truly not this superficial love, which is just like a type of affection, but when they really, really falling in love for realsies, uh, not the pleasure based love, because like I said, it's not love, but this type, you cannot love anybody without going through some form of death. You see, and often people talk about, oh, I'm looking for the true love, and I would like to have like that fairy tale story and all that stuff. But when it happens, when the universe brings that, um, it said, hey, you asked for it, and now it's time for you, the old you, to die. Basically, you want this. The price is dying to everything, to the entire content of your consciousness, which was created in from the past, which is uh, uh, not really you. It's just a belief system, and it's a type of uh, structure in your psyche that is like static, where it's supposed to be alive. And this is why, like, where the aliveness coming from? Aliveness coming from perpetual changing of the boundaries and perpetual changing of the openness, right? And you would see that in a Taurus energy field, uh, where you would see like the lines are interwoven like this, and there's always perpetual movement. It's alive. That electromagnetic field is alive, and that's what you really are in your soul. But to get to that point where your electromagnetic field, your soul is at the infinite flow and rotation, there are certain type of structures that must disappear, and that is experienced as a sort of death. And this is why I'm always talking about the alchemy and devotion. And there's no alchemy without courage, and there's no devotion without surrender. And those are the two facets that are required, which are the facets of your soul, not the mind. Mind will always be super afraid of surrender and courage to the essence of who you are. Okay. And and this is why it's not a concept. People may talk about it, and they create the concept in their imagination, and this is how the love's supposed to look like. This is my checklist. This is my checklist person, and I'm just gonna manifest it. Then they manifest that, and they have not done any kind of uh, real, genuine surrender, and the alchemical and devotional process in their heart, which is a perpetual process, by the way. It's every day. There's a process of dying, which is love or loving, and the process of living, which is light. This luminous type of movement that only bliss. I also peace and bliss. Love is peace, light is bliss. And you can talk about love and light all you want, but what is inside of you? You keep on uh, keep on trucking and looking for external solutions for the disorganization of your soul, or are you? I don't know, man. It's just you just have to have balls or the lady balls uh, to go through that process, because that's gonna happen to you anyway. And so people talk about incarnation, or life after death and stuff like that, not realizing that life after death can be in this moment. You can experience what's it like to be in the state after death now. It's because what's going on in the real time, it's death and life, flipping around like that, which is experienced as this peaceful bliss. Okay? So, um, but the mind extends that and says, like, well, okay, my body's gonna die, but there's gonna be life after death, and I'm gonna deal with it then. And so then they're not really facing, because that's all it is. It's about moving your attention and awareness to the northern star, as I call it. It's you're always gonna find it where to put that attention. And if you've never done this and you move your attention there, yes, you will find all sorts of fears and all that stuff, but you gotta keep on going, 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 and learning of how do you surrender to this. How do you face this? What's the courage? What's the surrender? This is how you use your consciousness at the fundamental level. And it's very simple, very basic. um, I'm just using a lot of words to describe the symbol of point in a circle. What is the point in a circle? The eye. And in this case, it's not the eyeball, it's the eye of your soul. You have this capacity right now. You can place your attention on any feeling or sensation in your body. So if you're capable of doing that, if you for example now can become aware of the feeling in your body, look at it, with your attention, and focus on the background. It's thrilling. Okay, it's right there. And this is how you always get in the habit of dying and living in the real time. Not when you're going to take a psychedelic, not after you die, not after this or that. You see what I'm trying to say? Every day, it is a type of. This is why there is no such thing as getting to the point of illumination or enlightenment. It happens in the real time, and it is perpetual process. And if you can call anybody illuminated, it's only the person who is living in that state of consciousness of perpetual death in life, in their soul. um, and they may appear uh, um, well, of course they do appear like they're on drugs, because that's what the drugs, well, these psychedelic drugs uh, imitate, right? They create a temporary state of your natural essence. So that's just why, like, some people who are living from that essence uh, feel feel, well, they look a little bit like they drugged up. By the way, I'm going to go into deeper into this thing. Right now I'm talking about like this essence thing because I just really want to just, I don't know, just enjoying sending this message, because somebody really wants to hear this, and this is why I'm excited about talking about this. And once my excitement is gone, it means, or I'm excited about something else, then people going means that somebody on the other end are expecting or really want to hear something else. It's always works like this, you see. So anyway, so I mentioned being drugged up, and also it's not a secret that your body produces a lot of natural compounds, like it can produce natural cannabinoids. And sometimes I feel high, but I did not smoke weed, but I do have these types of high feelings, and I did not smoke weed. Love can do that too. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying here is that there is this word that's been used in the past, and in a way I'm kind of reviving the old arts um, of use of consciousness. I'm using, because you have to understand, we all may use different vocabularies and lexicons, but we may be talking about the same thing. It's very important to see that that's the case, and once you see the structure of consciousness, you see what people are referring to, and if they're referring it correctly or incorrectly, it's totally available for anybody to see that structure, and and then you see what's true, what is not true, better than even the person saying it. And sometimes, like, you can see their thought patterns, you see the error in their thought patterns, you see that what they're trying to mean, what kind of words they're using, like, you see everything. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh damn, the fox just came. Gotta get some bones or something. One second. I gave some meat. It's called Zorro. It's a type of jungle fox. It's like a fox but gray. I saw this, but it's a very small type of animal. It's like a maybe cat size, a little bit. Yeah, it's a cat size animal. Um, but it can kill large birds. Very small but deadly. Anyway, uh, remind me what we were saying about. Right, the real time death life situation. Um, I have to go back in the same group right now. Right, I think I was talking about how life brings you these opportunities, always brings you these opportunities, and it's like I said, sometimes I call them portals. This vocabularies. This is what I was talking about. And so some may say portal, another may say northern star, another may say negative feeling. Um, so many words to use, but we're talking about the same thing. And how do you know what we're talking about? Like, what's the universal language? Well, geometry is pretty good because, like, I mean, if you look at circle, it's circle for everybody. You can call it circle. You can call it uh, circle, whatever you want to call it, but it's always going to be this thing, you know. So the same way with this thing that we have to go through, which is a form of death. You see, that word death is also not supposed to be used. It's the same. Why are we using the same word that indicates the death of the physical body and the process, the internal process that happens within the soul? We use the same word. But in the soul, we call it love, and in the body, we call it death, which is really exact same type of process. So now, this is going to happen to you, whether you like it or not. Whether like these, whether you are going to meet it, or whether you're going to resist it, it's just going to happen. And if you can experience life after death right now. You see, you can experience what's it like to life after death. You can experience right now, and I'm talking about the state of consciousness. You don't even have to be like astrally project or leave your body, right? Leaving the body and going to the specific location in the astral and experience that state of consciousness is not necessary to experience that state of consciousness while in the physical. And some people, look, there's a lot of people who may be astrally projecting, but they have not moved through through any of these portals or followed the Northern Star, as I said, right? Or did the alchemy devotion. Different words, same process. And this is why I'm saying that it is not the way, right? It is still kind of form of entertainment. And by the way, everything that you're going to experience there is going to reflect it, what you are in the soul. Yes, it can accelerate. Like what it can do is it can bring you to that, right? Because you can actually project whatever, and then you encounter some sort of like a shadow being or whatever, which is just showing you the quality of your soul. And if you can face that shadow, whatever, right? And if you learn in the astral reality, it's the exact same process. It is facing it with your courage, and then surrender, which is you allow it to sort of merge with the background and everything. And if you do that, then that shadow being can be dissolved. When I started astral projecting, this is what I was doing. It was, for me, it was kind of visible. I would be astrally traveling, blah blah blah, but then this, and it can manifest as anything. It can manifest as like a black smoky shadow. I was seeing them, but then every time I would just look at them, and every time I would face them completely, and there might be fear there, but I would just go into that fear and just and burn that thing up. And sometimes they would change from black into white and whatnot, but it's just like an illustration of it. But if you're not using it for that, then you're not experiencing this death life flipping that I'm talking about. And a lot of people, you want to use this because they go, I can kind of escape, right? Like, I want to escape this. No, you shouldn't be using it for the escape. Because I'm even going to say something about Terence McKenna. Not that exploring consciousness and seeing how it all works and meeting the machine elves, as you call them, or whatever, which are actually souls. They're just souls in a geometrical shape. He called them dribbling basketballs. He just met his soul tribe, in the sixth density and whatnot. And it's not that it's wrong to explore that. It's all great. But it has to correspond to your natural level of your soul evolution. You cannot layer the darkness with use of psychedelics, because you're going to get to the point where you cannot do that anymore, and the darkness is going to come out. And so he experiences as this, an attack, which led to the brain cancer and kind of premature death, because he was pushing it too much. He was relying too much on psychedelics. He was becoming interested in alchemy, because of course, like life was kind of bringing him to this, like, hey, you gotta stop relying on psychedelics and start relying on your own attention and awareness. Um, you know, and I don't know, it might have been too late for him, but that's why that arose. It was basically a reflection of the darkness that he then didn't look at it. So you don't want to do that, okay? You don't want to rely on psychedelics. You want to use them, experience what's it like when that uh, content of your consciousness dissolves and that love and light that shines through happens. You want to experience that. It's great to experience that because it's like, oh, like that's what I am. Like this is what can be, and then you take the matters in your own hands, and then you play the alchemical game and following your northern star, and learning how to die every day, to every second, every minute. you know, because that's what love is. And some people may even say, like, well, what's going on? What's happening to me? Am I dying? Well, it's not you that's dying. It's all the nonsense that been accumulated. Your belief systems are dissolving, but it's not you. But the second you identify yourself with that surrender, that openness, and not the content just goes, "Zhook," and then you realize that, oh, I never was that thing. I'm this freaking luminous feeling of awesomeness. This is who I am. It's alive. It's changing. This is why it's making decisions for you as well, and it's creating the boundaries that are alive and moving for you. It's not static. This is why with the belief system you say, well, I'm not going to do this thing anymore. Okay, that's just a belief system. It's a static thing. Forget about all that shit. Stop making any of these rules and just let your heart to move the things for you. And it's going to attract the right person, repel the right person. It's just going to, or repel the right energy, attract the right energy. It's just going to do everything for you. Okay? Then, of course, your brain becomes uh, uh, sort of retired because all this load that it used to be picking up, it's now completely exhausted from carrying something that it could never resolve. This is why sometimes people, in the end, they give up because of exhaustion, because they used the wrong faculty for life. And so they're like, well, I can't do this shit anymore. Fuck it. And so when they give up, then they realize, oh my God, there's release. Things start working out. I don't have to control it. Things are actually coming out the way I always wanted because I stopped forcing things to happen. And it only happened when there was this state of surrender and openness in the heart. And so I'll tell you something, okay? Not that I wasn't telling anything before. No, but I'll tell you something. And this is a masculine, or the yin, wants nothing more but be in connection with the feminine, which is yang, which is love. And at the same time, is the most scared of that. Is shitless scared of love. And so psychologically, the psychological fear is about love, because that fear is, oh, I don't want to die. But the love can only appear when that thing that doesn't want to die disappears. Or rather, like it's almost like a knot that just goes into the sweater, if you will, the coherence. I'm sure that electromagnetically, this is what's going on and possibly can be measured, you know. I think this is where like um, a lot more money should be funneled towards uh, figuring out the states of consciousness. And I can envision a type of instrument. For example, right now the instrument, it can be you. You can be the instrument. You can look at the person, and you can, by the contrast of your own, if you're going perpetually through this life death kind of, psychological state, or you live in the essence, if you will, then in that contrast you'll see everything in other people. You'll know exactly where they're at, where they're blocked, and like everything's going to be there in the contrast. So you kind of an instrument, but I can also envision some sort of device uh, that can be used, that doesn't rely on a person who can actually tell everything about the person, uh, and this is why people uh, 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 can't hide from me. And that's all another thing that's scares them, because I reflect all. If I'm in that state, which is stillness, that's a crystal clear mirror. The background I talked about, the background. Consciousness has a background and a foreground. When the background is crystal clear, there's no movement there, then the reflection is very thing. You're gonna see yourself in that reflection exactly of how you are at that moment, right? Um, the foreground, however, if it is coherent with the background, will correct for all sorts of distortions, and the person will see themselves as they can potentially be. And so this is what psychedelics do. It makes the person see themselves as they can potentially be. It works exact same thing when they meet the person in that state of consciousness. It has a psychedelic effect. I met once. I met once in my life. Yeah, but I met like the dark side and the light side. I met both. I saw uh, the mirror that reflected all my darkness, and I saw the mirror that reflected all my, potential lightness, if you will, or brightness. Uh, and then whenever, if I look at the dark mirror, which are sort of like indicates the distortions for me where it's still dark, I kind of work on that, and this way it catalyzes my alchemical process. This is why I'm kind of grateful for the dark mirror too. I mean, this is, of course, you have to be, because this is the only way you can see your alchemical, uh, the need for the alchemical process that has to take place. Right? And so you gotta let the dark mirror be the way it is, because it's for you to see yourself of what you could be, kind of thing, right? But anyway, if I'm in a coherent state, then the person in front of me uh, also experience themselves basically of how they could potentially be. So they have like type of like a psychedelic effect, if you will, right? But I can also do the other thing. I can be the dark mirror too. I can show them of how, what they're not facing, and where they're supposed to still kind of let go and die. Does that make sense? Um, But anyway, I was just trying to say that there's a device. I can envision that device being created that actually not not in a made up way, but for real, measure the coherence of. I think people are working on that. Measure the coherence of electromagnetic field of the human, and they can say, okay, well, of course, like it's not nothing fancy, but to be able to, you don't really need this device, but it may help. It may be a useful tool. The end of result is the end result or the path is still going to be the same as what I'm talking about. You have this negative feeling somewhere. Place your attention there. You focus on the background of it and find in betweenness between that thing that you call negative and the background of everything. And in that space where the mind cannot go, your soul can, and you just fall through into that state of consciousness, of awesomeness. That's what happens. Okay. um and that's what I would sometimes call living life directly. And sometimes people would say, like, hey, why are you just like completely ignoring all these people who are out there kind of popular, and they speaking the wise truths to to millions of people? Like, why aren't you like acknowledging them? Because I know that they are payasos. They are a distraction. They're not saying where they need to look at. They even they they talk about this. Oh my god, sometimes I can see that the person is talking about this thing and using the words, but um the person listening is trying to get there. Is trying to get there. And so you can see this is just never gonna get there. But the person who is teaching enjoying that fact that they keep on like seeking and going and just because it feels useful. So that's the ego side inside of them that still is playing that type of game. You see? So why should I acknowledge this when I see it as a dysfunction? I do not respect it. I do not respect any of these people. Like I said, I allow. They don't bother me. Every, everything has to exist here as a contrast as well. So they play a purpose, but the purpose is to so you can discern for yourself and not be fooled by them. They are the test. They're not the what's going to liberate these people that are following them. Whether it's like Sats Benzo or Tony Guru, whatever, it's not. They're all playing the same fucking game. But few people lived life directly and talked about it sometimes. And and it's not that living life directly is a big deal. It's just that for some reason there's few people that live like that. Um, the right way, and it absolutely is the right way, because consciousness is lawful, and consciousness, you cannot deny that um, you're experiencing states of consciousness and things like that. So, what I'm trying to say is absolutely the right way. It's metaphysically true. Um, and it's about like weaving those two energies together in the right way, and the wrong way, it would be just splitting those energies up and then trying to connect them externally. So that's the ego does that, and the soul doesn't do that. Soul directly weaves those two energies that like that negative feeling that you feel are actually those yin and yang energies that are not in union. But by connecting them, by putting your attention and awareness there and getting to that infinite state, you're allowing them to connect directly, that is now alive in your soul. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you go straight into the imagination, mind, manifestation, astral projections, all that stuff. And if you don't do any of this kind of work, not to say that astral projecting is bad. I'm just saying, as with everything, it can be used as a distraction, or it can be used as the actual what we came here to do. We came here to grow as souls and be in a state of growth, in a state of evolution. We didn't come here just like you get to the end of it, because that's not life. Life is a continuous unfoldment of things, but you can only experience the continuous unfoldment of things if you're in that state of destroying the old and letting the new come out of it. Like you have to be in that type of state, and it is a way of life, if you will. It doesn't make you into ultimate being. It just makes you into the being that is in a state of evolution on a soul level. And there's nothing really special about that. This is how it's supposed to be by default. But for some reason, it's not by default over here. And if that is happening, then all your astral projections are going to be awesome. All your manifestations is going to be awesome. Everything's going to be awesome. If that is going on, then everything else is fine. Like, even if you smoke weed, you'll know exactly when it's okay to smoke weed, when it's not okay. Whenever you do need to do alchemical process, you can smoke. Then when there is a celebration and stuff like that, and you are in a state of amazing, smoking weed may help you. It's more like a flavor. It's like, for example, why eat food, right? Like, if you can just already kind of full of light, and why eat food? Well, you eat food because it gives the flavor of life. This is the same reason why you still enjoy wine. This is the same reason why you still smoke weed. It adds the flavor to life. It doesn't fix the way you feel, because you already feel good, but it adds a pattern to it. You see? It adds a pattern to it. But all of that is kind of clear to you, and this is why I'm not saying that anything is wrong. You can right? There's two ways I just described. The ego way. The ego way is going to start looking for all of these external ways to reconnect the yin and yang, and so that's going to be dependence on drugs and stuff like that. But if you do it this, and if you live directly, then all of the different things are just experiences of life. It doesn't change what you are in a soul. But you're not gonna, for example, drink a lot of alcohol because you don't want to get wasted. You just want to get a flavor of life. By the way, to me, alcohol doesn't do anything anymore, so I don't get any benefit of the feeling of high. It just doesn't do that anymore. Same thing with weed, but weed still adds like a perspective that is different. So the way my thought process works, it's different, and so then I get some value out of that. I start seeing things kind of differently from different perspectives. Again, it's a flavor of life, but it doesn't add any quality to it, but it changes the pattern of experience. This is why I enjoy it, but I really enjoy it. I don't smoke it to fix it. I used to do that, but it doesn't work for me like this anymore. And I don't have a need to smoke really, unless like I have like if I have my friends over, and sometimes like I like to mix a little bit of good quality weed with espresso coffee. Boom, boom. The conversations are out of this world, and that's what I like. It's more like a ceremonial type of experience for me at this point. What else I can say about this? by the way, that also changes everything around you. You change the state and things change around you. But ideally, you don't even want to be like an alchemist, but you do need to be an alchemist for some time being, um, because by placing your attention on these things, right, on that negative thing, that portal, and when you begin, uh, it can be a bumpy road and can be kind of difficult. But the point of it all is to get to that point where that spaciousness of, I suppose, or like that attention and awareness is in a perfect place where that process is perpetual. It's not ending. The dying and living in one happening all the time in your soul. It's alive. It doesn't get a chance to solidify into the matter because that would be ego. Um, and as soon as the death happens, which means the matter gets dissolved, and this is what happens when matter falls into a black hole. But then, where does the energy go? It shoots out as gamma rays, which is light, and then is formed as a new matter that was better than before. And that new matter is what is outside you in physical reality. Do you see how powerful this is? And then what you end up being in life where it keeps getting better and better. You are just in a trajectory of evolution, and then that's where your life actually starts, and everything's based on peace and bliss. And this is life after death. This is you no longer incarnating. Do you see? That's the true meaning of incarnation. Is that carnation means meat, matter. And so it means if you have a meat in your soul, then you are incarnating. It's not about dying and then seeing where you're gonna, get another body in another life kind of thing. It's not about that. You can stop incarnating in this life right now. And that's like sometimes people call, we come here so we get to the point where we're no longer incarnate. And then everything got distorted, and these wise words were translated, and the meaning was lost in translation. And now everybody thinks that, it's about eventually, not coming back to Earth, meaning that you stop incarnating into Earth. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that it doesn't matter where you are on Earth or a different planet, you're just in a state of consciousness where there's no incarnation, I suppose, is going on. And that is what really is. It's a liberated type of life. But this idea that you're going to be on a different plane or whatever, it's not correct. You don't have to be. I suppose like the real original meaning was about this. That's what it was meant originally. You see. And then people are fascinating with like a near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, like, this. I'm every day in a near-death experience. That bliss and that liberation that they may be experiencing, I'm experiencing every day. Right now, it's getting stabilized. I used to go like, like for a few days it's going, and then I snapped out of it. Then I go back again, and snapped out of it. And so it was, my experience was just like that pulse, getting in there, snap out, and eventually now it's becoming where it's just like stable. So I'm getting accustomed and stable in this vibration. And it takes time. I'm still getting used to how to live life like that. Because it's not the same anymore. And I also have to say that this releasing of these knots, if you will, these distortions, these alchemizing these gems, as I call them, happens on multiple levels, on all states of consciousness. And sometimes they're called, beta, alpha, theta, delta, epsilon, a really, really high lambda, and then absolute zero, right? So they're talking about these states. On each and single state, there's going to be a distortion that you're going to have to alchemize. It's not, you can alchemize like on one state, and then you're going to be fine functioning on that state. But you go into the deeper state and it doesn't work. There's problems there. You see, so the game is to be able to be equalized on all of these different levels and all states of consciousness. This is what I realized as well. That it's not enough just to harmonize on one level and that's it. No, you have to go through all of these levels and be harmonized on all of these levels. And you may be put into the situation where these are very deep levels. And the intensity of the alchemy may be different. That's what I've experienced, Sometimes people call new levels new devils, but if you go one by one, and it's exact same process, just a different intensity, the alchemical and devotional process, you will get to the point where you are no longer need to be alchemist, because it's your home now. You're on all these levels of consciousness. It's your natural state. The alchemy and devotion happens automatically in the background without you even doing anything. Your attention and awareness has settled. But like I said, it might be the bumpy ride on the way there. And once it settles, then you kind of live in a state of a bit like on LSD or, maybe even DMT. And it seems that throughout the day it changes, and sometimes you feel like high on weed, and sometimes you feel like there's a bit of like an LSD type of sensation going on, and sometimes you feel like it's really intense and it's like this is DMT stuff going on. And so you're going through all of these different experiences. And by the way, each single state produces a certain compounds in your body that you may call it drugs. And you can produce, this is what I meant to say and I didn't say. The word pharmacopoeia, the original word pharmacopoeia, what it really means, it's a capacity to produce compounds, which are drugs, internally. That it determined by the state of consciousness. This is not a new science. What I'm saying, this has already been established. Maybe not acknowledged that much, but it's been established that the state of consciousness produces certain compounds. You see, if you change the state of consciousness, not because of external means, but because of your attention and awareness and the way you use your consciousness, you will also change what kind of compounds your body is producing. So you can be producing a lot of DMT, you can producing a lot of cannabinoids. Um, you can even producing a lot of growth hormone or testosterone, depending on which level you're focusing and on which level the coherence is at. Where are you focusing your energy? If you're focusing on your root chakra and you let the coherence intensify there, you're going to be producing a lot of, uh, you know, these reproduction hormones, if you will, testosterone, estrogen, stuff like that. And by the way, this is something that I'm going to get into because I want to uh, create. I want to write the book of alchemy and I want to write the book of pharmacopoeia. Now, you cannot do pharmacopoeia, which is another word for theurgy, um, just from the lens of what it does to your body. But I'm talking about the real thing. I'm not talking about like somebody read the book and then now going and telling everybody, oh, don't you know your body can heal itself? You can produce all sorts of drugs yourself naturally. And they're talking about this. And the reason I use this type of tone because it's the voice of a clown. Yes, it's true what they're saying, but they're missing the entire point of when that is true. It is not true because you've imagined it, right? And a lot of people just get stuck in the imagination and imagine that is the case and have a sort of like a they may have a temporary alleviation, but that's not that's not it. This is not what I'm talking about. This is why this is only true to the people who either are alchemists or gone through the process of the alchemy. Real deal alchemy, not the clowning around kind of thing. That becomes true because why does become true? Because then with your attention and intention, you can create these states of consciousness. You recognize what is the red frequency, what is the orange frequency, you know how it feels, and you can evoke the intensity of that coherence of that specific frequency on demand. And if you do that, you create a state within yourself, and that becomes like a color of bliss, if you will. There's a red type of ecstasy, there's an orange type of ecstasy, there's a yellow, green, and all these flavors. And if you can move to any of these states, because all you do is just place your attention there, and that energy intensifies and the coherence starts doing its thing. And if you stay there, your body is going to be producing these compounds. Guaranteed. I've watched myself. What happens, for example, with my musculature based on the states that I am. If I'm going into the red state and I let that sort of run, then the next day I may wake up and look in the mirror and what the fuck, it looks like I'm jacked as fuck. But it was all because of I facilitated that particular state and my body just flushed my body with growth hormones and testosterone because I went to that state and let that state run. And that is about the red and yellow. Red and yellow, those two frequencies are going to produce a lot of growth hormone, testosterone, and all these other compounds that are to do with strength. This is what the red stands for, and will. That's what the yellow stands for. And all these different products are being produced. That's the real pharmacopoeia, and that's the real pharmacy. And it can only be true in When you live life directly, that can be true. And but what I'm saying is real. I'm not saying, again, this is not some um, babble that someone says and then somebody else try to do this, but they have no fucking idea what they're doing, but they're just imagining that that's going on, deluding themselves. No, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about something that is actual. Okay, because somebody says that that's how it's supposed to be. Other people read it or hear about it, believe that that's the case, but they just miss the whole point, that it's not true until it is. You see. And so they live in a belief system and imagination, and it's not real. It's not really going on, right? But there could be real, and the only way you could be real is if you know. Um, by the way, like sometimes if I go a little bit like a purple uh, levels, yes, I have like incredible states of blissfulness. Purple is just fucking mind-boggling thing. Uh, and it does feel like I'm high on LSD. Uh, Lots of love, lots of light, lots of bliss, lots of peace. It's amazing. But if I stay there for too long, my body's starting to shrink. This is what I've noticed. Is that you have to be living on all of those levels. Because there was a time when I was just like, oh my god, this is just, just like a bliss button. I kept on pressing it, but then I realized, oh, I can't do that because I'm just gonna, you know, waste my body away if I'm always gonna be right here. I have to be from the root to the crown on all the levels equally, spending equal amount of energy on all the levels. Then I'm gonna be well-rounded person, and my body's gonna be strong, produce adequate amounts of hormones for my body to be strong, and the same, I'm gonna be connected as much as I need to be connected to these higher patterns of realities and the wisdom, right? And so I want to be completely balanced like that. This is why I'm still jacked, but at the same time, the thought patterns that I have are uh, downloaded from the right place as well. And so I don't want to be that guy who just goes right into like this frequency and it just, but then the body kind of shrinks and it becomes sort of like, I mean, I'm not saying this is anything wrong, but it becomes, like that uh, traditional gray alien. Big head, big eyes, completely small body. Because it just went all up in here, right? I don't want to do that. Yoda, another depiction of the same. Big head, small body. Um, Not saying there's anything wrong. Like there's some people that maybe it's good that they're just completely concentrated on this higher frequency vibrations. Because you need people who are purely focused on that too. It's not a problem. But I realize it's not for me. Uh, I want to be completely balanced on all the levels. That's for me. That's what feels the best for me. You know, and especially if you, I can't afford really to just be in these high frequency states all the time. I just can't afford to do that. You know, and so I use in all the areas of my life that is adequate. But I've noticed that again, I don't want to expand it too much on this one, but I've noticed I don't know if you've noticed as well. That may help you to realize that, okay, there is, right, you can reach a level of the coherence at the really high frequencies, but that's not it. You're gonna have to reach the high coherent levels on the low frequencies too. Through the highest to the lowest, you're gonna have to have a coherence on all of these levels. If you're staying on this planet and you need to have your own self-sustainable habitat in life, you won't be able to rely on anything else. You won't be able to rely on the governments, on other people, or any other structures. You're going to have to create the structure yourself. That's why you're going to have these lower frequency capacities, which is this, the strength, the intellect, all of these different things that are necessary for you to create your habitat that is sustainable and harmonious, and it doesn't depend on a system. This is why you're going to have to be. Now, some people, when they go all the way to the high frequencies, then they still kind of depend on the system, right? Or they depend on some sort of organization where they kind of reveres them and says like, well, you have like you're the source of the wisdom, so we're gonna put you, don't worry about living. We're gonna get you food. We're gonna get you shelter. But then they rely on some sort of community or society, whatever they rely upon, right? But they are not grounded by themselves. Okay? Because you take that away, and what's going to happen? They're too weak. They are, on what you call it, on a practical means of life of how to survive. Like where the food's coming from. They just, what are you gonna do? They can't do anything. So they're not really, as long as they can get people who are kind of value them as an elder in the society, fine, that's fine. They're gonna depend on that. But it's best to have these types of that type of community that is built by you and runs on sustainability, and that requires intellect, that requires ingenuity, that requires practical means, and all these kind of things, right? You know well-roundedness, and it's a lot of fun, man. This world is crazy. I mean, this holistic world is crazy. I mean, things work definitely differently, and everything that they're talking about in the Matrix is true, but it's only true in the holistics. It is because it becomes like a myth, and they're talking about this, and it's like, oh, can you believe that this can happen? And they're like, oh yeah, that's what they do. And then they try to do this, and they play all sorts of imagination games on hallucinating that is the case, but it's not really the case. They're still in the Matrix, but they're like kids playing the adult games. You see what I'm trying to say? Or imitate, like if they're having a tea party, but there's no tea in the cup. And it's okay to recognize that that's what it is, right? When somebody is saying and super excited about this, oh, don't you know this? Like, yeah, you're saying that, and it is true under very precise and specific conditions. Then it becomes true. But just listening about this and saying, oh wow, having belief about it does not become true. This is believing in God. It has nothing to do with God. It's the same thing believing in Jesus, believing in Mary, believing in all these things. It's nothing to do with an actual thing. When there is no belief in God, then there is godliness, and it's just a brilliant, luminous feeling of bliss, which is powerful because it organizes everything around you as it's supposed to be organized. And this is not for the exceptional few. This is like the right of every single person. This is why I some time ago made a video and I said God is not a big deal, so people can stop. Uh, uh, I don't know. It just doesn't do really. It doesn't do anything. Not sure if it does anything, because when somebody believes in it, when you say that, hey, your belief in God is just a belief, it's not what God is. Uh, in fact, the God can only be when there's no more talking, words, or beliefs. You can't experience it. In fact, it's the opposite. If you believe in God, is a devil. And this is why, uh, you know, and I say that there's a group of people who they call it God-fearing people. Well, these are the people who are in the belief systems, and they have nothing to do with God. And then there's God-loving people, if you will, which they don't have to believe in God. They don't have to create the concept of God, because the feeling that they're experiencing in the real time, in the present moment, is bonkers. And there's no question for you what God is. And there's sometimes people visit that state when they take DMT or LSD, like high doses of LSD, and they visit that state, and it's like, whoa. But it's not just available through the use of psychedelics. It's available through the use of your own consciousness and using it right as a right instrument. Um, am I babbling? I might be babbling. But I feel like there's something else to say to finish this story about the process of death, life, talking about the same thing in a different way. You know? And I just also want to show that living life directly like this is not how it's shown in the Matrix. It's shown in the Matrix that some fucking monk, which is not really how it's supposed to be, or it's shown that somebody is just like, in these fucking white robes, and it's like, oh, that's the only way. If it's really give you a bad rap, because it's not what it is. It is very similar how it used to be. You're just happy as fuck. That's it. You go to the gym for the different reason. You eat food for the different reason. You do everything for the different reason, for the reason of enjoyment, because you don't have anything to fix about. It's just, and you do all of these things. You watch movies, but it looks from the outside observer the same. But if you look closely, that person is completely blissed out, enjoying life. And that's how it looks like. It looks like a happy person, genuinely happy person. Um, and not to say that there is no emotions and stuff like that, but because you live in that essence, the emotion comes along and and you experience that, and it's like, and it's fucking awesome. It's like thrilling to experience. You experience that, and you don't have any beef with it. And it's like, whoa, that was a trip. Life is going on, but because you live it directly, nothing accumulates. Which means if nothing accumulates, there's no knots inside of you. And if no knots inside of you, then there's infinity. And if there's infinity, then there's peace, bliss, tapu state. and then you live your life, do your regular stuff, but you're happy for real on this planet Earth that's supposed to be impossible to be always happy. Uh, eh, Again, that word happiness, I have to say that um, has also been hijacked. And sometimes people say, well, you can't always be happy. Depends how you mean. If you mean that happy in the same way we're happy, sad, or love, hate, then no, that love is not opposite of hate. That thing that you call love was never love. You see, that was like an attachment of some sort, affection, because it can't turn into hate. It was never love, but we use the same word. The same thing with um, um, what you call it? Happy, sad. That wasn't really happy. That was perhaps like temporarily elation or something like that. But it just went straight into the sadness right after. It was just like a dopamine release. So that's not real happiness either. But I'm talking about the real love and real happiness. And I'm living it and I can see what's going on. And yes, sometimes it comes along these waves where it kind of really challenges you and it challenges your capacity to alchemize. And it does going on, it does happen. But it comes like a wave. It's like a digestion. You digest it, poof, go. But when you get used to it, it becomes an enjoyable experience. So yes, sometimes, for example, it's so a lot to process that they have to say, well, I'm just gonna sit in my garden and drink tea for a little bit, or maybe read a book or whatever. I'm not gonna go out to do something like that. I'm just gonna be with it, and I can enjoy it. So I can be happy with the dark, and then I can be happy with the light. Right? When the darkness is going on, I'm primarily in a peace bliss state because I'm, uh, transmuting it in the real time. You can say that you're with God, but there's not a lot of soul movement going on, playfulness or creation. It's just like this beingness, and that's what you need to be or do, I suppose. Be do, or do being, or do being, be doing, whatever that word that we're supposed to be kind of have, or is it being and doing in one? And sometimes, um, when the energy is flowing, I'm out there having fun. Then that is kind of visible, and people can say that, okay, well, that person is having fun and enjoying. I'm not denying the existence of the dark moments. I'm saying that these moments can be full of enjoyment and light. It just doesn't look like it. Because you're not animated when that's going on. You're not animated because it requires so much of your attention and awareness that you have to be completely with it. When you're completely with it, you're not animated. You feel a bit like drugged up because like you are in a type of peaceful and blissful state, and the people around you may be animated, but you're not animated. But then when that passes, then there's animation comes online, and then now you're animated again. But what I'm trying to say is that in both of these cases, there is a contentment and enjoyment of what all is. And eventually it's going to be one and the same. You're not going to need to be, I can see the trajectory of it, and this is why I'm saying that's what ends up being. But I've heard that Um, I don't know again if this is true, but to stabilize yourself, again, I don't want to create no belief. This is what's going on with me. That's the only thing that I can say. To stabilize yourself in that essence, uh, where you are stable on all of the levels, takes time. To be in the real time doesn't take time, right? Doesn't take practice, doesn't take, it just happens upon your attention and awareness being placed or connected in the right way. Immediately, poof, it's there. Um, but I don't know. I may have gone a little too deep into this one. Um, but if it makes sense to you, that's awesome. Totally possible to live like this. But and by the way, if you live like this, uh, everything around you start changing too. So even if you watch people who are like, oh my God, they're fooling themselves, why? They are not, at some point, they're going to stop fooling themselves as well. You know? They're going to get to the point where there's going to be realization coming from within, and them say, like, what the fuck am I doing? What the hell I was saying to all these people? That realization is going to happen. Um, you see, and it will. People are going to even talk about um, what really matters, and it's all because what you did, you trailblazed it. You weren't stuck in whatever they were doing. You went direct way, following your Northern Star, trailblazing it, and they're gonna have to, because whatever nonsense they were doing, it's because out of lack of the coherence in their own consciousness, and they're living in a belief system. When as you alchemize all that, you create a different level of coherence. By the way, of course, you're also alchemizing your own belief systems, but your own belief systems is everybody's belief systems, and the more you are remain in the axis of truth, you see belief systems of other people changing as well, or rather disappearing, and they're becoming more coherent, more coherent, coherent. That's what's actually going on. This is how metaphysics work. This is how holographic universe works. Um, without a doubt, because you're the aperture of it. Do you understand? You are the aperture of it. And if you are following your Northern Star, then you're really an aperture of it. And yes, there is some, like for example, sometimes people go solipsism, but it's not really solipsism, because solipsism, you believe that you're the center of the reality. But this holistics, you don't believe that you're a center of reality, you just are. It doesn't make you better than anybody else, it just makes everybody you. That's what it does. Because you realize that, like, the formation of all the fractals and patterns in front of me are actually me. It's me. I'm holographically projecting all of that stuff. And it's not a belief, because it's just like a direct reality. You can see it. And only somebody with an ego would misinterpret that and say that, like, well, uh, you know, that no, it doesn't work like that. Who do you think you are? Well, that's the thing. I don't think anything about myself. I am what I am. And it's funny that like there's a part of me arguing with the nature of reality. But if you don't give energy to people like that, which is also you, don't give energy to the projection of that reality inside of your experience, and they're gonna go away. And it's a direct proof to you that you've actually create what you see. It can happen this way, but like I said, it will not happen if you just remain in imagination or in the magic or mind. If just in your doing, you're always going to be fighting with yourself. Or just imagining, you're going to create a temporary fixes which are always going to collapse. Unless you start living directly from the soul, you are not living. You are not living. Because there's no death and life in the real time happening in your soul. And therefore you are not living life. I hope it makes sense. Life is a thrilling experience. There's a lot of things that kind of piss you off, but you alchemize that. You find the answer on the other side. Like, okay, there might be some tangible action that you may need to take in order to address that. Which is, by the way, like the only game in physical reality or digital reality is protection. Don't attack anybody. Don't let anybody attack you. Don't let anybody steal from you. Don't steal anybody's shit. Create that strong boundary in your reality that nobody, and I'm including banks and shit like that. Don't let no fucking bank steal from you. Always look for the better option, different bank if it's possible, and if they're trying to fuck with you and say, well, that's just normal, like, we just charge this because of this, like, go fuck yourself, motherfucker. Find another way. Always find another way. Don't let no injustice happen to you on the physical reality. Always make sure that this happens, on the physical reality, do not trust anybody. Like, especially, I don't care if you have, like, look, if you're in the Matrix and if you don't want to be dragged into the Matrix games and you want to, like, you have to protect yourself in the physical and digital reality. You absolutely must be protected, even from the closest people to you, because you don't know what's going to happen. They may go dark and they may revolt against you, and they may, that love thing was never love, was just like this affection and love-hate thing going on. And when it flips into hate, guess what's going to happen? If you don't protect yourself, you're gonna lose that thing. And the reason you can't lose that thing is because this is just your means of surviving on a physical plane. This is why everything that I'm talking about in psychological and psyche level is not like it in the physical. This is why, like, only in the body level, inside there's this luminous glow, and only outside there's a crust, not inside your heart. Outside there has to be a crust, the physical boundaries, you see. And what are your physical boundaries? What are your digital boundaries? For example, I don't have any subscriptions that is not a tangible service. I have internet, I have phone. This is a service, and it's fine. It's not software, because you know what I'm trying to say. I'm getting an actual service. But movies, all these other services, like, I do not allow the single software organization to take a cent from me. But for example, if I need to host data or websites, that's perfectly fine. They're giving me a service. But I do not give any software organization a cent from me, as much as I can, because that's thievery and that's breaking the law. I don't give a shit what kind of laws they made. They're wrong. No software organization should be a corporation in the first place. Don't acknowledge them at all. And I do my best not to have these bullshit ass subscriptions. It's always about like they're looking like, oh, subscribe. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like it's a software. Subscribe to software? What the fuck are you talking about? It's a software. Do you know what software is? It's a program. It's just a piece of code. I can install whatever I want. I can uninstall whatever I want. But to pay for a subscription and something that's already been created and there's no additional value being added, it is a scam, and it has been normalized, which should never be normalized. It's a thievery and a scam. And I don't subscribe to this nonsense. This is why I can't wait for Web 3.0. I can't wait to different world. You see what I'm trying to say? Different world. But you gotta protect yourself from Matrix. This is what I'm trying to say. Protect yourself from the Matrix on the digital reality and the physical reality. And if you do this, then you don't have to worry about it. And then there's internally, you don't have to protect yourself from anything. You alchemize everything. Nobody's gonna, like, if somebody is trying to hurt you emotionally, alchemize that. So there's nothing there inside of you that is, does not allow for that aliveness in your heart going on, that love and bliss happening in your heart, the real love and bliss. Okay? And that's how the holistics looks like. It's not weak. In fact, I have to stress this. In fact, it has a structure of protectorate. You protect your house. You have guns. You have, sharp nails physically to protect it. But you don't attack anybody. You don't let anybody attack you. It's that type of approach to life. So I'm not denying that physically you have to be dangerous as fuck, but emotionally you have to be peaceful. You have to be very, very peaceful. And the reason you have to be dangerous as fuck, because you live in a world where the Matrix functions, and over there is no justice, and there is you need, just like that butterfly cell protects from the caterpillar cells, even though they came from the same organism, exact same way you have to protect your assets in the physical and digital reality. Okay? It's not that bullshit hippie nonsense communism, like, oh, we're all one, we're a family, why don't we just get along and like we don't need guns. No, it's not okay. What they're talking about is about utopia, but we don't live in the utopian world. It may end up being after a few hundred years or so, we may end up being in that type of where entire planet is holistics and there's no more Matrix, or Matrix just shrunk, which is, by the way, this is the destiny of the Matrix, is to be shrunk into a just hardware robotics, which is just production of the hardware. Because why? Just like ego should never be in charge of the software, but it's in charge of the hardware. The same way the Matrix, it should never be in charge of the software, but you should be in charge of the hardware, because hardware production is useful. Technology is useful. And that's what's going to end up with the Matrix. It's just going to be pure hardware and technology production organization. So the Matrix will still be shrunk, but it's well, I don't know if you can still call it matrix, but it's just going to be like that dot in that circle, a small piece where it's supposed to be. It's allocated what it is. It's just like when you allocate your brain to where it's supposed to function, which is just regulating the external world and not dictating what's going on in your soul, in your heart. The same thing externally happens. And when we get to this point in a few hundred years, and utopia may happen, but you cannot force this right now, and because it's not going to happen. You have to understand where you live. You live in this world where you have to have sharp claws, but the soft heart. Sharp claws, soft heart. And this is why you won't attack anybody who you don't have to attack. You will only use it if you have to defend it. And absolutely, not out of anger, not out of rage, but if it's necessary, when it's actual physical danger, and your energy wasn't able to pacify the assailant, if you will. And okay, then you may end up needing to use it, because look, like I said this before, but in the nature, you go out in the nature. I live in the jungle. I live in nature. So okay. So there's like these fish, turtle, butterflies, and it's like, oh wow, it's all magical. It's all awesome, flowers, whatever. But then there's these small mosquitoes coming in, taking your blood. So of course you have to prevent yourself from that, and then the rest of it you can enjoy. Of course you have to prevent yourself from the dangers of the nature to enjoy the nature. So that's where you can see it that you can't avoid that. And the same thing with people, right? You want to be very difficult to kill, and you want to be a threat to on a physical level. You want to be a threat, but you're not engaging it. Everybody needs to know that if it's push comes to shove, you can totally fuck them up, but you're not gonna do that because you're just here to protect yourself. And this is what prevents them from messing with you. So you can totally be innocent in your heart and dangerous in your body. Body meaning not your body, but physical reality. And this is what is required of you at this moment in time on this planet Earth. This is what's required of you. It's not negotiable. You cannot be physically or digitally weak. And at the same time, you cannot be soulfully rigid and full of matter where they're supposed to be light. All right, that's enough of babble today. I'm sure this video seems very long. Okay, peace. I'll see you next one.